Welcome back to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and we are going to be talking about the Kansas State Wildcats today to talk you through a little bit of what has changed here. They lost quite a bit, Goodman. Tyler Perry's gone, Cam Carter's gone, Arthur Kalum is gone, Will McNair is gone, Day-Day Ames is gone, Dorian Finister is gone. They lost a couple of pieces off the bench as well. Bring back David Gasson and Makali Rich. And they went out in the transfer portal and got a lot of work done. Doug McDaniel, point guard from Michigan, coming in. Coleman Hawkins, big man from Illinois, coming in. Ugana Onyensu from Kentucky. Brendan Housen, a shooter from Villanova. Bay Fall, a former five-star recruit. Max Jones, CJ Jones, a couple of mid-major guards. Ashore, your favorite player from Samford. There is a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism on this roster. I actually really love the process that the Kansas State staff went through in putting together this roster. I have questions about whether or not the guys that they brought in are actually going to work in the roles that they are putting them in, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that when it comes to building a roster, I love what Jerome Tang and the staff did putting this group together, and I have high hopes for Kansas State this year.
Yeah, I mean, completely revamped. Obviously, year two of the Jerome Tang era didn't go quite as planned. They didn't make the NCAA tournament, but they got NIL and that helped, and they finished strong in the portal. That was the biggest thing, right? They went early, got some dudes early, got their backcourt, and then they got their front court late, right? Core, and even on Yensu late, and then they finished with Coleman Hawkins. In full disclosure, one of my favorite kids. Maybe he's not a kid anymore. I probably can't call him a kid, but sometimes, he acts like a kid.
So do you, Jeff, and you're 73 years old.
I am 73. That's true. I just celebrated my 73rd birthday yesterday. The biggest thing, yes, they accumulated talent. Do the pieces fit up front? That's my biggest question mark with them. But I think we start – to me, I think we start up front because again, that's the biggest thing. Those are the biggest names, Rob. Usually we start in the backcourt. To me, I think you got to start up front because can Coleman Hawkins play the three? That's the question. That's the X factor. That's the everything for Kansas State because that's what Jerome Tang wants to do here is play Coleman at the three. And if he's 100%, which, he's kind of been rehabbing his knee over the course of the offseason, taking it easy for the most part, and he'll ramp things up here soon. But we know he can guard threes if he's 100%. Is that his best position? No, I still think you're going to see him a lot at the four. And ultimately, when the game's on the line, I think you probably see a lineup where a core and Coleman Hawkins are at the two front court spots. And McDaniel and Housen and, Castillo's, listen, the kid David Castillo, they love the freshman guard. I talked to Jerome Tang at the Peach Jam about it. He's small. Coleman Hawkins said the same thing to me, like talented, could be huge for them this season. So I think they've got some options here. But, again, Coleman Hawkins' health and ability to play the three for 10, 15, 20 minutes is going to be key.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know if you need Hawkins as a traditional three-man, right? I think if you look at, to me, I kind of, when I envision him, I envision what Jerome Tang did in 2023, the team that had Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson. And Keontae Johnson played with Naquan Tomlin quite a bit. They both started every single game. And I don't think that if you would have watched that team play, I don't think you would have called Keontae Johnson a three. They posted him up quite a bit. They took advantage of some of his individual skill sets. Now, maybe that means that he's going to be on the floor with Bay Fall and Ugana Onyensu. But maybe it also means that it'll be on the floor at the same time with like a Brendan Housen and one of the Joneses with the center. I also think that you're going to see times where Coleman Hawkins plays a small ball five because I think Coleman Hawkins, when he is at his best, is playing a small ball five because of what he could do defensively and how good of a creator he is on the perimeter. Like, to me, so when you put this group together, right, I think so much of it is going to fall on Doug McDaniel. We can talk about the front court and the pieces and all that, but to me, so much of it falls on Doug McDaniel because when Marquise Noel was there and he averaged 18 and 8, the reason why that worked is because you had a guy that was able to step into the Big 12 and impact like basically every single possession offensively, right? They put him in ball screens, they put shooters around him, they gave him a rim runner at the 5, they gave him a running mate in Keontae Johnson. They just kind of said, let's go out and hoop, right? That's what Kansas State did 2 years ago. And then last year, they kind of tried to replicate that with Kaluma and with Tyler Perry, and Tyler Perry was good, but transferring up from North Texas, like the athleticism issue was he wasn't quite good enough to be able to be as efficient as he needed to be for Kansas State to be a team that finished in the top 5, 6, 7 of a loaded Big 12, right? Same thing with Kaluma. And to me, my biggest question, and question is the wrong word because I think the world of Doug McDaniel. I think he's going to have a very, very good season. I think he's going to be like one of the 5 most impactful guys in college basketball. I think there's a world where we look up and he has a very similar season to what Marquise Noel did, like 19.6 assists with good efficiency, right? But I think that that's going to be the key because they have the shooters, they have the rim runners, they have a roster that's kind of built to be around a ball dominant, ball screen heavy point guard. But is Doug McDaniel a guy who, like, let's be honest, put up good numbers on a horrible Michigan team that completely folded and completely wilted under the pressure of expectations? Is he going to be the guy that can handle? Like, that is my biggest concern. You're bringing in a point guard from a team that went 8-23, and I think Doug McDaniel will get it done. But to me, that you're still kind of there's still a level of inherent risk when you're bringing in a point guard that was on a losing team the way that Doug McDaniel was. Does that make sense?
Sure. I mean, look down the line and you say, okay, Doug McDaniel, right, came from a losing program. Brandon Howson came from a losing Villanova team. You know, good shooter. I like him a lot, but he's got something to prove.
Mhm.
Okoro's coming from a mid-major. Now, again, they were awesome last year. They won their league. SoCon, good league, but he's taken a step up. Coleman Hawkins has to come in and not only be healthy, can he be a guy? He's been a piece for his whole career at Illinois. Can he be a guy? Can he be a leader as well? I think he can. I really do. I mean, I think as long as he's healthy, he's going to have a huge year this year on both ends of the court. And they've got shooting. Like, that's the one thing to me, right? Like, you look down at some of these lineups and, you know, I don't want to call anybody out specifically, Indiana a year ago, but like, if you don't have shooting, you don't have a chance. So at least you look at it all and you're saying, like, Doug McDaniel, yes, he's got pressure on him, but everywhere he looks, he's going to have somebody, for the most part, that can shoot the ball, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's important to me. They've got flexibility, versatility, you know, a lot of guys that are versatile players. I think it helps. But there are questions. There are definitely questions with this team. But I think they put themselves in the equation, you know, somewhere in that preseason top 25-ish. You could put them as high as 15. I wouldn't argue with you. You could put them as low as 40. I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah. So I'm just let's roll through the roster and kind of put everything together. Doug McDaniel at the point with David Castillo probably ended up being the backup. I don't know how much he'll play, but I think it would be nice if he didn't have to play McDaniel 37 minutes a night, right? You have Brendan Housen, who, like, this is what he does. You play him on the wing, he's out there to do this. Max Jones shot 38% from 3. CJ Jones shot 38% from 3. Max is a little bit more of a scorer. CJ is a little bit more of like a jumbo point guard facilitator that can be like a secondary creator. Um, Up front is where it gets really, really interesting, right? And you
And those
talked
are
about,
two mid-major guys, by the way,
yes,
that probably aren't going to have huge roles. They're probably both going to come off the bench and fight for some minutes.
yeah. And so then you have Coleman Hawkins,
Yeah.
you have a core,
Yeah.
a chore. I pronounced his name 7 different ways since he got there.
No, you probably got it right. I probably got it wrong. But
Well, I tried it 3 different ways, so I better have gotten it right. You got Bay Fall, former
yeah.
5-star guy. You got David Gasson coming in. You got Ugana and Yensu at the
Yeah, we
5.
haven't mentioned Yensu
Yeah.
at
So
all.
there, what you have there is a bunch of guys that can give you a whole bunch of different looks, right? I think that you can play. I think Ashore Shore is a better shooter than people realize. He is 21 for 70, 31 for 74 in his career as a three-point shooter through 2 seasons since he was at Stanford. We know what he is as an athlete. We know what he is as a rebounder. We know what he is as a defender, right? I think you can play him alongside Coleman Hawkins and then also put Onyenso out there at the 5. I think that Bay Fall is a guy that is going to have a chance to maybe be something of a breakout. 6'11", really athletic, kind of like a, I think that he's a rim runner. I think he's a rim protector, but I think he's more of a perimeter oriented guy than people give him credit for. Um, and I do think that when you have an eraser like Onyenso at the rim, that's going to help because look, Doug McDaniel, he's not out there to be an on-ball defender, right? Brendan Housen, probably not looking at him as one of the great on-ball defenders. And when you have a team when Kansas State is at their best that wants to force some turnovers. They were top 50 in the country in defensive turnover rate the 2023 season. If you don't have great on-ball defenders, you need somebody that can erase stuff at the rim and take away some of those mistakes. So I see there's a lot of pieces and a lot of different guys that can do different jobs. And outside of McDaniel and Hawkins, I think that it's going to be kind of a like night by night basis, matchup by matchup basis, scouting report by scouting report basis. But I think they go 9 deep with guys that can actually impact the game. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We are going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
I would say this. I'd be shocked if McDaniel, Hawkins, Housen, and Okoronkwo don't play big minutes. And then I think, Hassan and Onyenso, they kind of figure it out there. Castillo gives you some minutes off the bench. The rich kid, he'll play some too. I don't know how much Bayfall is going to play. I don't. I think he's more of a project still. I think it takes another year before he really figures in the equation unless something happens with Onyenso. But yeah, I think again, you're gonna ride those four guys to me this year, and Housen's going to be very, very important because he's got to become that shooter they can depend on to kind of stand in the corner, make some shots because they've got enough. I think they've got, again, between McDaniel, between Coleman, like those are shot creators, for themselves and for other people. Like Coleman, that's the beauty about him is the way you can run your offense through him if you need to. And Doug McDaniel, obviously, that as well. He can create for himself, get in the paint, make things happen for other guys. But Housen's got to make shots. Okoronkwo is just going to be, again, I think you're going to see him have, and I don't say this about too many guys, I think he's going to have like maybe not similar point production. I think he averaged like 15, 16 last year. I think he can average, 14 this year for Kansas State. I think he's again that talented, and he's just a tough matchup for guys. That's the one thing. He's kind of like a little bit awkward in his game, and I think it makes it a little bit of a tough matchup for guys, even in the Big 12.
All right, what is the X factor for this group?
Oh, it's Hawkins' health to me. 100% Hawkins' health. If he's not healthy, they're an NIT team again to me. If he's 100%, they're a team that you got to watch out for, like really, really watch out for. You're probably going to say McDaniel and take a page out of my point guard playbook. I know you are,
No,
but I would say
I have Hawkins knee. Hawkins knee is that's what it is. If you're talking about like on court stuff, I think it's figuring out the front court and how that all kind of works together,
Yep.
right? Can Hawkins and Ashore play together? Can you play the two of them with Onyenso at the five? If you have five guys for two spots, is everybody going to be happy if they don't play 20, 25 minutes a game? So to me, it's figuring out how the front court all kind of fits together is going to be,
Hey, you
that's the most
talked at the
important thing.
beginning, Rob. You talked at the beginning about what they lost. One of the guys I think they lost that I would have liked to have seen them retain and they didn't. He went to Virginia was the Ames kid. Like I would have liked to have seen what he could have done. Now I get it. Why you're not coming back. I can't remember if they got McDaniel. I assume they got him first, I think. Or maybe Ames went in the portal. I was surprised he went in the portal, but I would have liked to see what he could have done his sophomore year at Kansas State.
Yeah, all right. So your expectations for this group. I am very in on Kansas State. I'm going to operate with the assumption that Coleman Hawkins will play the majority of the season healthy. I think that he is going to be a top 25, or they are going to be a top 25 team with Coleman Hawkins healthy. I don't think that they're top five in the Big 12. I don't think they sniff the top five in the Big 12. I think the top five in the Big 12 is very, very clear cut. But I would have them in the same tier with BYU, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati with like second weekend potential. Maybe if the things break right, they can kind of get to a Final Four. But I think that they are like a top 25, top 30 kind of a team, which when you consider how much they lost, like that's a pretty good rebuilding job in one off season.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, you just look at it now, and I mean, again, it's insane to think of where they could finish and still make the tournament right now in the Big 12, right? Think about it. All right, Houston, Arizona, Iowa State, Baylor, BYU, Kansas, Texas Tech, Cincinnati's really good this year. I mean, that's like 8. They could finish 9th and still be like, honestly, in the 8-9 game in the NCAA tournament. That's the beauty. That's the beauty is they're going to have so many opportunities in league play this year. I say they finish somewhere in that like 6 to 8 range in the Big 12 this year, maybe 5 to 8 range. And they're a top 25-ish team all year. And I think they end up going to like a Sweet 16, somewhere around there, winning a game or two in the NCAA tournament. But again, I think their ceiling's high, but largely dependent on the health of Coleman Hawkins and the play of Doug McDaniel.
All right, give me a grade for the offseason.
Oh, I mean, really good to me, like A-. I would say what he did, and it starts with part of it is, like you got to raise money for NIL. They did it. I mean, they were able to get some things done in the portal. So I would say an A- with what they did and giving themselves a chance this year.
I'm similar. I'm going B plus, just a little bit lower, simply because I think that there are, you're taking a couple leaps of faith, right?
Sure.
Like it's your point guard is a guy that's coming in from an 8-23 team. I think Doug McDaniel is going to be great, but you're taking a bet on a guy that was the most important position and he was a loser last year. Like all due respect, but you went 8-23. Coleman Hawkins, I think has a chance to be really, really good. He's also a guy that spent like what 50% of last season playing at about 50 or 60% of what he is when he's at his best. You're taking a chance on a guy that's 50-year senior that's got a bum knee, right? So I think you're taking a little bit of a chance there. You're kind of betting on Brendan Howson being able to be more than he was in 2 years at a Villanova program where like he kind of fit what you're looking for with Villanova. You're betting on a couple guys to take a step up and impact Big 12 basketball. You're betting on Ugana and Yensu to have a breakout as a sophomore, which is not always the easiest thing to do when you transfer in the offseason. So I see the vision. I think it's going to end up working, but I don't think it's without risk. So I'm going with a B plus as opposed to your A minus. But based off the grades I've given out, dude, B plus is pretty good. I'm getting destroyed by people for saying that like not every team in the country had the greatest offseason of all time. So if you want to see those other grades, check out the Field of 68 YouTube channel. We have 45 of these episodes that are going to be running in August and in September.